So let's talk about summer dating. And this is gonna be for all of my people who you like to go out, you like to travel, but you might want to have at least one or two consistent people. Safely, what does dating for fun look like during the summer?
Dating for us is, I want to start by giving a definition for dating for us. So just so we're on the same page, for us, dating is a short shopping experience leading to something that you're vetting so you can get to know if it's somebody you want to spend a long-term relationship with. So we stick with that definition, and I think you mean something different from it. If you're trying to build your roster over the
Tell
summer,
them don't build no roster.
that's something, and we're completely non-judgmental over here. Do your thing. But I think the best thing you could possibly do is to understand that you can have anything you want out here, and but you can't have two things at the same time. If you want something serious and just dealing with one person, then you can't have that and also have the other thing.
So step one, find out what you're dating for. If you're dating for the purpose of filling a roster, that's a very different direction than
Right.
if you're dating for intention to go into courtship, into lifetime partnership. Step one, answer the question. What am I
Yes.
dating for?
Right.
Fun and serial dating, or am I dating with intention to go into courtship and find my person?
It's the summertime. It's a season of love, late night, and beach dates. But reports show there is a 12% rise in intimate partner violence during the summer, according to the U.S. Department of Justice. The National Domestic Violence Hotline sees a 20% increase in calls between June and August. So,
Mhm.
how can somebody identify if a partner is potentially abusive? What are some red flags? Because always it's not physical.
And just a disclaimer, everything that we're about to discuss going forward about domestic violence and intimate partner violence is our story and our professional experience. So this is
Yeah.
our stance. We don't want you to feel judged. And what we believe that though the numbers rise in the summertime, prevention is paramount. Early detection is key because prevention is paramount.
Yeah.
So the summer months, people may let down their guards, but we're saying that the rates are increasing because not enough of us have preventive preventative models, and we don't have the tools to spot the red flags like you mentioned. And so during the summertime, people are like laid back, a little less stressed at work, and they oftentimes forget that they still need to be vetting.
Anything that disrupts your well-being is a form of domestic violence. It's the smallest version, but that's the best way to actually approach this
Because
because it doesn't just come in
at physical.
at physical abuse, which is one of the drastic ones.
I know some people who have been domestically hurt very bad, male and female. Let's put that out there. The wounds inflicted by words and manipulation can linger. And I believe what y'all are talking about is understanding verbal and emotional abuse. And those are like the early signs. And I want to really dive into what are some signs of verbal and emotional abuse. Because for some people, based on their background and their family childhood, is different. I've seen people tolerance levels be completely different. I'm like, girl, that was crazy.
Yeah, yeah, you named it. And so again, personally, I'm a survivor of domestic violence. I lived with my physically abusive boyfriend in high school, and I thought not having physical abuse going forward means that I was improving, but I ended up marrying an emotional, verbal, and financially abusive husband, my first marriage. And to your point, we have to know those signs early. People know they have to know you to be emotionally harmful to you. They know how to push your buttons and have you on an emotional roller coaster. So they know how to take you up, and they also know how to say one phrase that'll make you feel like crap. And again, the people that do that well have access to you. So these are friends, family, intimate partner, and your colleagues. That's usually where harm comes from. And all these violent numbers that you're naming, they come there. And so we're saying, listen to how people talk to you that are in those four categories. Anytime your body, your visible, or your mental really shifts and you have to question that connection, stop and say, would you just not say it didn't sit right with me? Or that wasn't cool. You have the right, because you're in a relationship with them, you have the right to name that in the moment. To your point, though, some family members talk to one another harshly. Oh, look at you, you going out there all stupid. That's usually the conversation in some families and some friends. And so what we've done, especially in our communities, is we've normalized that type of dysfunction. So when it comes to verbal abuse, the kind that you could call the police on, we don't call because we have experienced that at home and with friends.
That, let me just chime in. No, that right there, the way that Black families talk to each other, I've even had to tell a few of my family members, hey, listen, I know that you had a rough childhood. I get that. But moving forward, if we're going to have a relationship, you can't speak to me like that. And they have
Yeah.
changed, and some haven't.
Let me
Some
tell
have
you
not.
something. That will help you determine who your people are. I can tell you that. And I'm gonna say this to you, true love does not have an opposite. You know, a person treating you like crap one day and then treating you like with love the next day. Now let me be very clear. Everybody's entitled to a bad day, but if their patterns show they're mean, they're nice, then this, then that, it's abusive.
Tell them go get some help. It's not your responsibility to heal them from their childhood trauma, from their childhood harm. We create a universal definition for healthy relationships because we want to be on the same page so that regardless of our upbringing, regardless whether you've navigated abuse or violence, intimate partner violence, domestic violence, emotional, verbal, physical, you come into this relationship saying, if I want a healthy relationship, then this is the foundation. That's one of the things that I highlight in my story of domestic violence. I was ignorant of what are the healthy ways to communicate, deal with conflict, and have companionship. But because I didn't know that, I was ignorant to that learning, that healthy relationship building skills, I stayed. And then another reason I stayed is because I felt like I didn't have any other options. I felt this is what everyone endured. But right now, we have a lot of work to do because it's not the norm.
No,
We can't afford to lose at home. If you're black and brown in the United States of America, you can't afford to lose at home. You're gonna come home and in addition, you probably dealt with stuff at work, and then you're gonna come home and then have somebody doing little microaggressions, and you're hearing that in your in it starts out as outer stuff and then becomes a part of your inner dialogue.
Yeah.
it does. I'm going to ask you some question on a term that our generation likes to use, gaslighting.
Oh,
Let's talk about two, gaslighting and love bombing. Can you tell people what is y'all's definition?
Gaslighting, we define as when, again, someone has access to you. So it has to be a family, friend, intimate partner, or your colleague. They have access to you. When they oftentimes say phrases, make statements that make you question, wait, is that true about myself? Wait, did I just experience that? Did they try to make me feel, am I crazy? They'll say phrases that make you question your very sanity. But it has to be a pattern. So oftentimes people confuse gaslighting with someone teasing or ribbing or one off. It has to be a pattern.
my wife experienced violence in her home. I experienced it in the workplace through microaggressions. And I worked in advertising for years and on Madison Avenue. And getting in there is like getting into the NBA for anybody, but for black people, it was through my entire career. I mean, we got treated poorly. And I can honestly say the gaslighting was through the roof. They would pretend, they would say things to try to lob insults over your head, make you think that what you experienced wasn't the truth, and act like they were, oh, I just don't get, I don't understand what's going on. But meanwhile, your well-being was totally disturbed. I don't know if you're familiar with the Surgeon General's report, but this is huge, and I think everybody should be aware of this. The Surgeon General came out because this huge epidemic in the United States of America, where 76% of people report harm in the workplace, some mental
Mm,
health issue based on being in the workplace. So wrap your head around that.
my
This is
God.
the Surgeon General for the United States top doctor. And the reason why they're motivated to do this is because they're overwhelmed with all the people that are husk of people who've been spit out by the system at the end of their career.
Family. And so at a base level, we're saying it's important to know how to spot early the signs of unhealthy relationships in general. Don't get stuck on just intimate partner. Don't get stuck on domestic, because if you're going to work and you're experiencing relational violence like gaslighting or microaggressions, we don't want you to normalize that.
Right.
Let me ask you this, because I had a few people sending some questions. I sent it out. And there was a girl. She has 4 kids, and her son stays with her child's father and his girlfriend. The son has been having some very strange behavior. And that strange behavior is just outbursts, falling out. And she really wants to know, what are some signs that children show that something dangerous is happening in the
Yeah, I
home?
mean, I think therapy, that's the way to go, because there's a lot of, at that age, a therapist would obviously do the research and do their thing with that. On our level, with us, most of the people that we deal with are able to communicate to us, and we're able to get to it. But I definitely recommend therapy
Yeah. And
for young
and
people.
so the recommendation definitely would be for childhood behavioral therapists.
So that's key. Get a child behavioral
Yeah.
therapist so they can identify the signs. And that also goes for adults, because getting a therapist to identify some signs on what is working and what's not. I want to ask you, because I'm going to put, of course, some of this on Instagram. Give me 5 early signs that somebody could see when it comes to relational abuse.
One is nonverbal. If you're in an intimate relationship and you have these conversations with your partner and you get these sudden ignoring, they take all the energy out of the room, they have this sort of weird black hole that comes out. That's one sign, because that's, even though it's body language and you can't prove it or put a finger on it, that's a red flag. Another one is when you are having these conversations about conflict and they make you feel like what you're expressing, you're not experiencing. So, some forms of gaslighting, right? Number two. Number three, those insults that become patterns about your appearance, about the way you engage. So they're talking about the way you talk. Oh, why you talk like or walk like that? Oh, you got to dress like that. You always out here dancing. Nobody else is dancing like that. So they are very particular about the way you just naturally show up. But it's a pattern of it. That's a third one. A fourth one, when you have those, really dominating questions about your whereabouts or literally about your body. Like, why are you standing over there? Come over here. Wait, move over here. Or be in this space. Or stand like this. Why don't you move like this? Wait, where were you? You didn't text me fast enough, or you didn't call me back fast enough. Those sort of policing your body types of conversations and comments, that's the fourth one. And fifth, usually a lot of people don't think about any behavior from your intimate partner that makes you stop and go, whoa, I thought this person loved me. That was real harsh. So it could be their verb, something they say, something they actually do, or a comment they make to someone else about you that's surprising to you, that makes you like question, wow, I thought we were cool.
The most important thing to understand is that love is always going to be like earmarked by freedom and safety.
That's how you know it's love.
Things that impose on your freedom, things that impose on your safety. That's why we do the early detection thing, because it's so difficult to get people out of it. It's just, it's so many tentacles on you. It's so hard to pull you up out of there.
And a lot of men and women don't say anything because, especially in our community, we're enculturated to tolerate harm and toughen up. Another reason we don't say anything in our community, especially men and women, is because sharing hurt is not normalized. Where
Right.
are the communities where we just go and have these, hey, my mom and my aunties were really harmful, or my brother and
Right.
those communities don't exist yet. And then finally, access to resources is not really widely publicized. Like, we don't see commercials about, hey, you're experiencing intimate partner, hey, you're experiencing relational violence at home. Hey, you and your elder, you're living with your grandparent experiencing relational violence. That's not a norm yet. And so oftentimes men and women aren't talking about this harm that they're experiencing because of those three factors. We're
Yeah.
doing our work at WLW Works Dynamically to change that, because we want to normalize relational health, because Black people deserve soft living. We deserve
Yep.
Black love optimized.
Right.
We deserve to enjoy one another without the struggle first. And
Right.
so we have to normalize those things in order for us to get there.
And I tell you, love does not have an opposite. So if you're seeing the opposite, problematic.
Yeah.
And like I said, everybody's allowed, we're all imperfect. All of us are allowed to have bad days from time to time. But if there's a pattern, problematic.
And if you feel like I'm in a community that may feel cultish or I need to identify, ask yourself, am I free to be myself? Or do I feel like I have to walk on eggshells to become or to fit in? That's
Right.
one, around freedom. Then two, ask yourself, do I feel safe emotionally, physically, psychologically, like all of the areas? Do I feel safe?
The other thing is, I think in Black and Brown communities, we have it backwards. Like for me, when I was going through the stuff I was going through in my office, I felt like me coming home and talking about microaggressions was a micro problem. And it's just the opposite. That psychological stuff with you stays with you
Long.
years and years, and it just like hides in your system. The physical stuff, I'm not minimizing physical at all, but you heal from it a lot of times. Psychological stuff hiding in there, and very few people go seek. We've seen tons of people in the hospital getting casts on their legs and stuff like that. Again, not minimizing it, but how many people do we see, especially in our communities, that are going out and getting band-aids for our for our minds
Yep.
and for the psychological side of us?
And it's
Well,
happening too often. 1 in 7 men and 1 in 4 women, just in New York City alone, experience relational violence.
yeah,
That's too many.
I want to ask you this. What are some shelters that people can go to? I know you all are in New York City,
right.
but if they're listening to this, they're in Florida or Atlanta. What are some key places they can reach out to?
Well, Safe Horizons is a nationwide one. If you're in New York City and you need to be extracted from a harmful situation, there's an organization called WARM. It stands for We All Really Matter, but they actually do extractions in New York City. So they'll help you get out of the situation because we don't recommend if anyone is in a physically or domestic violence situation, we're not saying just go leave. That's irresponsible of us to just say leave. You have to have a safety plan. There are resources in the city that you're in, wherever you're listening from. First, find out if you need to do an extraction or if you need to transition through something like Safe Horizons, where they'll walk you through the steps, or if you're in immediate danger and you need extraction and 911 may not be your immediate thought. There are some organizations, but find the one in your local city that can support you, because creating a safety plan is step number one. You have to create the entire strategy around getting out of that relationship. That's not a overnight just get up and
I
go.
like that. Okay. And I just also want to provide the economic impact. The
Mm,
cost of an intimate partner violence in the U.S. exceeds 8.3 billion annually. That's accounting
yeah,
for Medicare, mental health
yeah,
services, and loss of productivity. The
yeah,
impact on children is up to 10 to 20% of children in the U.S. witness abuse of a parent or caregiver. And
yeah.
children who usually witness domestic violence are at a higher risk for emotional and behavioral problems, may perpetuate the cycle of abuse in adulthood. I want to ask you this last but not least. Should you confront your abuser directly if you're in an intimate relationship?
Oh, personally, and I'll do personally, you could do professionally, but first we talk about professionally. There is a way that's in your safety plan about confrontation. But personally, even when I thought I was being harmed in my physically abusive relationship, when I confronted my partner, I didn't have the language or the skills yet to frame what I was experiencing. And so when I did try to leave, it didn't work. My partner found me quickly and was right back, because they have the language or the words to say to get you back home. When I was in my first marriage and it was emotional and financially abusive, I confronted my partner then, but at that point, I had a little bit more language. I had also been working with my therapist to identify, wait, this is in fact not healthy. I'm not just crazy. I'm being gaslighted, but now I have the language and the skills. So my transition out was a lot easier in my marriage because I had done some work. Their reaction to my truth was not my responsibility. I was just stating the truth. This is not a healthy relationship. I'm experiencing emotional, financial, and psychological abuse. I do not want to be in this relationship, and I definitely don't want to experience those things again. Therefore, I'm leaving. That conversation was lighter and more fulfilling and an easier transition because I had the language. I had been working with professionals. and I had a safety plan to transition out.
And what do you think? Because you gave it from the woman's perspective. Now, male wise, what are your thoughts?
First of all, we work with a lot of people who've had, a lot of men who've had negative experiences in domestic violence, but they don't really share like that.
They're
Right.
enculturated to share more anger.
Anger. Anger is accepted as a man, but sharing hurt, they've been enculturated, that's being soft.
So when they work with us and we recognize that, whoa, what you just not shared with us, we help them, one, identify that behavior is a form of abuse. We have to start there. Wait, you shared this scenario, but let's put this in the framework of a definition. And then they be like, oh, I'm in an abusive relationship. And then step two is they have to recognize, wait, I'm really protecting them. They're not that bad. That's usually what they do. Because a lot of times, oftentimes men will protect their partners. They're not that bad. Oh no, it wasn't like that. I probably did something. So they're too enculturated to tolerate hurt and just express anger. So when they do their so quote unquote confrontation, is usually a violent screaming match that they do versus saying, you know what, hun, this don't feel good to me. Guys don't usually talk like that. So when we work with them, we're helping them, one, identify that it's not healthy, two, just do some role playing and having a conversation so you're not expressing anger, you're expressing your hurt. And sometimes that is emotional. And so oftentimes guys have to get in touch with that and practice that because we want them to communicate hurt.
Now, I want to go back to what we said initially. This is just our experience with the people that we work with. And one of the things that my wife and I learned about the whole DV realm is everybody's experience is different. And I want to always stay with that to make sure that we're not just blending everybody into this gray.
And bystanders and friends of people in domestic violence or intimate partner violence situations, if you are comfortable having a conversation with them, the one thing that we want to ask you to put in your conversation is hold space for them. We're
Yes.
not asking you to create safety plans. We're not asking you to call authorities. We're not asking you to go with them to shelters. We're just asking you to hold space because we know the number one obstacle to people being out of abusive relationships is the communication, them saying and knowing what they're in. And so if you are a friend or a bystander of someone that's experiencing intimate partner violence, domestic violence, we need you to, one, be comfortable with holding space. You're just a listening ear for when they want to say, yeah, what I'm experiencing, I don't think it's cool. Let me tell you what I'm going through.
Yep.
Just be there to hold space. That's your first step.
I love that. Y'all, thank you all so much. And again, you can always connect with them when Love Works Dynamically on YouTube, Instagram. They also have their own personal pages. And again, we thank you for being on Pulse 101.3. Okay. Thank
Thank
you.
you for
Have a great
having
day.
us. Thank you for having us. Appreciate you.